3 weeks into the season, you generally have a good sense of if your team is good, bad, or somewhere in the middle. If you are a rebuilder, this is the time to start making moves to go get players that are going to help you, maybe not in 2024, but 2025 and beyond. That's the whole point of a rebuild. So let's talk 3 rebuilding trade targets for your dynasty teams. Number 1, it's going to feel obvious, I think, Jonathon Brooks. Now, there are injuries across the NFL, and most likely the contending rosters are dealing with injuries. And if that's the case, if they have a guy like Jonathon Brooks, they might be more willing to part with him right now than they were in the offseason because, look, their eyes are towards a title, and Jonathon Brooks probably is not going to be a key piece of a title run this year because he's coming off of an ACL tear. He is a 2025 play and beyond. We've talked about this. I think Addison and I have both talked about this throughout the offseason. He may be fine this year, but long-term, Jonathon Brooks is going to be much better than he is his rookie season. If that contender has lost, Isaiah Pacheco, Joe Mixon, or they just have a frail and fragile running back room like everybody else does, giving up guys like, say, an Alvin Kamara, a Josh Jacobs, these other veterans that are healthy that can actually produce and help guys win a title, you might be able to go and steal Jonathon Brooks away. That's the whole thinking around trading for Jonathon Brooks is it has to be a very team-specific deal. Like, it's not going to work in every single league with every single, owner or, manager of your fantasy team. Because if they are loaded at running back, then they can afford to have Jonathon Brooks sit behind and just sort of, kind of build up dust and reap the rewards in 2025. If they are missing wide receivers, running backs, and just need to find points so they can get to the playoffs and get healthy enough to win a title, then Brooks is going to be available. That's the truth here. The other 2 players are going to be kind of similar to Jonathon Brooks in that they're hurt or not fully healthy right now, and that's going to hurt contenders. So number 2, I'm talking about Puka Nacua. Puka is on IR, is going to miss, 6-7 weeks, maybe more. And even when he comes back, it's not a guarantee that Puka's 100% healthy. And I think contending managers or contending, roster owners are thinking about this in the back of their head right now. What if, Puka comes back and he's just not the same guy? Or, Cooper Kupp comes back at the same time and he alphas Puka this season? Like, those are things, as somebody who rosters Puka, I've been thinking about on my contending rosters. And because of that, you might be more willing to part with Puka than you were 3 weeks ago. That means guys like Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, or these other veterans that are producing, might be able to help their roster a little bit more. Now, obviously, if you want Puka and you want to give up veterans to get him, you're going to have to attach picks, or it's going to have to be multiple vets. And that may fly in the face of what you think of as a rebuild, but think about it from this lens. A veteran, an older wide receiver that won't be able to help you win a title potentially next year or the year after, and an unknown pick, that is less valuable than having a top 12 dynasty wide receiver. Having a player that, worst case, you could actually go split up into more pieces in the offseason isn't a bad thing. So it may feel counterintuitive to give picks up during the season, but if you can solidify stars for the future, that's the only time I'm willing to attach picks to players in order to, to help solidify a rebuild moving forward. And player number 3, somebody who's also hurt, we're going after Justin Herbert. If he's on a contending roster, one, they likely don't feel good about him starting him, the rest of the year anyways, because this is not the Justin Herbert-led offense of yesteryear, right? It's not the Justin Herbert we've seen the last 4 seasons, right? Where he's averaged 20 plus points per game in 3 of 4 years, 25 points per game or more in 2 of 4 years. It's not that kind of offense. They don't have the personnel to be that kind of offense. That is not what Harbaugh wants. That's not what Greg Roman wants. I don't know if it's what Justin Herbert wants this season. Long term, the next 3 to 5 years, Justin Herbert's going to be fine for fantasy. He's Justin Herbert. He's going to have a 5,000-yard season in there somewhere. He'll have a 30-plus touchdown season. That's the ceiling. That's the caliber of quarterback he is. But in 2024, not going to be the case. He's already dealing with a high ankle sprain. He left week 3 injured. He's not the guy you want him to be. And because of that, you might be able to give up other veteran quarterbacks or other veterans to help solidify your superflex quarterback position for years to come. That means, again, guys like Chris Godwin, he's going to be, I think, a high-profile name that gets thrown out a lot for veteran teams. Kamara, Jacobs, we've mentioned. But even go to Aaron Rodgers. Kirk Cousins, he's starting to come on a little bit here. There's going to be guys that are going to be more valuable than Justin Herbert because they're healthy and they're producing. Attach picks to them, and you're going to have a top 10, top 7 quarterback for the next decade in Justin Herbert. And quickly, before we fully wrap up here, the other batch of players you can look at as a rebuilder are the underperforming rookies or guys that did not come out of the gates hot. So not Marvin Harrison Jr., not Malik Neighbors, not Rome Odunze after week 3, but Adonai Mitchell, Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan, Brian Thomas. We'll see how he performs Monday night because I'm recording this before that. But Brian Thomas has been solid, but not great. Even Ben Sinnott. Like, there's other players out there that just have not exploded onto the scene. That doesn't mean they're a bust. We talk about this with rookies all the time. There's an adjustment phase. Better production comes after the bye week. So if people are seeing other stars around the league performing well and thinking, man, these guys just aren't it, I haven't seen enough to rule any of those players out. And if I can go trade for them, give up veterans, and just get my team younger as a rebuilder, those are the shots I'm willing to take and are less expensive than the 3 players we listed already, right? They're going to be a lot cheaper, a lot more affordable, and they may not cost you picks to buy some upside for your rebuilding rosters in the future.